Hello and welcome to the theElpyDimension. I'm your guide Elpy, and this is the Canadian Nightcrawler bin that I started. You can tell that they have felt disturbance in the area. I just recorded a short that while I was moving the blue worm bin that I rested on top of this worm bin to do a check-in and then slid over, that there was one of these big fellas had climbed up, and yeah, they respond significantly to disturbance, even before I start messing in the actual bin. So today's the 18th of February 2025. Yes, I am sick again. This is crazy. I usually get sick like once a year, once in a winter season, and I was just sick a month ago. Well, apparently I have the flu this time, flu A. Anyways, yeah, you can get an at-home test for that. I had to check on these guys. It's been 15 days. Last time I was in here was the 3rd of February, and that was my first official check-in. I wasn't able to get to them on the 12th like I did bins 1 through 3, and then for a couple days I couldn't, and then I got sick. But I'm feeling slightly better today, and so I'm like, I need to check in on 4 and blue and the big old Canadian Nightcrawlers, which is still looking pretty good. It's interesting how active they are, and yet when you grab them, they don't do much. Okay, so last time we checked in, I gave them a feeding of greens. I put greens on top, layered some greens, and then I put some more potting soil and then paper on top of that. And I actually came back after I turned off the video and decided to add more greens that I had. So you see that, did I say I started this bin on the 25th of January? So it's been today's the 18th, 24 days. So almost a month since I started this bin with 75 Canadian Nightcrawlers that I got from a big box store. And this is why layering it on top, I only did it, oh yeah, and I put some blueberries. I only did this because it's cooler down here, as in just layered it on top. But you see, these are fruit flies. They're probably younger, but it's also colder down here. So you see, they were more hopping around than flying, and they are not fungus gnats. But I'm not going to be able to keep putting it on the surface like this. I need to find like a sort of screening. Let's see. So I put 75 Nightcrawlers in here from big box store. There were said to be 18 worms in each container, and I had 17, 18, 20, and 20 in the 4 containers that I bought. Last time I was in here, I didn't count 35 or even 30 worms, but I think I was near 20, and I assumed that I could easily say that at least half of them survived. I looked around a lot of the bin, but not the whole bin. I don't believe I really got down into the middle. It's kind of intimidating with these guys, because seeing how active they are when you search around made me worry that, like, will they escape? You know, will you do all this searching and they're like, man, we need out of here. This is not a good place to be. Or they're so big that it seems that much more likely to injure them. gosh, I mean, look at, I'm not counting, although maybe I should have. But I really hate to like pull them out all stretched out like I just did. I mean, he came out pretty easily. I wouldn't have kept pulling, but still. So for those who don't know, Canadian Nightcrawlers, as the name would suggest, like cooler temperatures. In fact, they say that they don't like to be much warmer than 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That's fine right now, because that's about what my basement is. But my concern is, and this is a big worm, and he feels strong. Wow. These guys are like, what in the world is going on? Wow. Dang. So my concern is that how will they do in the summer months when, even though they will stay in the basement, it's still gonna warm up down here. So we'll see when we get there, but that's just a future concern I have. Is whether or not they can tolerate the warmer months. Okay, one thing I've been wanting to see. Now this worm does not look or act particularly healthy. There were a couple. I guessed when I was putting the worms in the bin that you can't really see, but he's more of a really gray-brown color. And there were some worms. I had thought that I would have 1 to 5 dead worms in the bin. Gosh, it would be hard to count these guys without, you know, setting them aside in their own pile because they're so active. But I could count just what I'm seeing right now and then leave it at that, just for shits and giggles. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, oops, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, 22 is going to stay up there for now. So I just buried all those guys. 22, 23, 24, 25. I do not remember putting a green bean in here. 26 was just poking its head out over there. Won't count too many over here, since, like I said, they move so fast. We counted one there, so 30 for sure. I'm not going to count anymore, but we counted 26. And like I said, they move so fast, and they're so big that they can, this is that root ball. So again, it's safe to say that half of them have survived and are doing well. We saw that one sickly looking worm. And like I said, I suspected when I was putting them in here that I would have at least one, I thought for sure, dead worm. And I had none. Even for some days later, there's one that I was following that I was pretty sure was going to die because he was hanging out on top, but he wound up moving. So, okay. Now, this material is moist, but I would really actually like it to be wetter. I'm new to Canadian Nightcrawlers. Brand new. I've never raised them before. I've not seen a lot of people raise them. So I don't know much about them, but they are anisic worms. They do contribute to composting, but they are by no means a traditional composting worm. Gotta be more careful because the material down here is kind of compact, and I found myself just trying to dig it up, but I fear. So I did add a fair amount of potting soil from plant pots. But yeah, so they're anisic, which means that they burrow vertically. They burrow in long vertical tunnels. They come up to the surface and ingest leaf litter to take down into their burrows. Versus composting worms, which are epigeic, that live mainly on the surface and eat the leaf litter. Okay, so here's two living worms down in this pocket. This bin is unlevel. It does stink, though, with my congestion. The stink isn't the normal stink. So it's interesting because the other material you just heard me say is, I feel like it's drier than I would like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and drop some of this moist but not wet material down into this corner. So easily half of the worms have survived, and that's great. If we counted, I think we can say 30. I counted 26 for sure, but then I didn't count when I started getting down here. But we can say there were 4 others guaranteed that weren't those guys moved over here yet. So if there's guaranteed 30 that we counted, I think it's safe to say that there's at least 40. Now, since these guys take food from the surface and carry it down into their burrows, I like to feed them on the surface, but it's obviously a problem with fruit flies. So today I have a lot of greens for them. And I'm going to divide it into 2 locations. So I am going to cover it up a little bit. Oops, see, that's what I'm worried about. I definitely felt myself just poke this guy. So in this bin, I need to be way more genteel. What am I seeing? There was a baby worm, if you'd call it that, a very small worm in the containers. That must be this guy. Okay. This is that root mass. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm actually going to give them a lot for 75 worms. I know they say they compost slowly, but what does slow mean for such large worms is what I want to know. So this is going to continue, will be a blanket. This more torn up stuff. I think I will give them a bubble mailer, presuming I have one handy, which I think I do. So normally I feed my worms in one place, but these guys are going to get essentially 2 trenches worth of greens. Okay, and these greens are even more rotten, and in fact, let's go ahead and give them an even more rotten persimmon. All right. So it's not right on the surface, but it's closer to the surface than not. They got 2 trenches, one over here, and one over here. And the green, see, that's the other, not that I need to explain to anybody the problem with fruit flies, but one problem the fruit flies also create is that they are competition for food. Maggots, that is, which I didn't see any, but you might think, wow, my worms are eating great, but if you have fruit fly maggots in there, they're the ones who are actually eating the food. Okay. All right. So there we have it. This is the second official check-in to the new Canadian Nightcrawler bin, which is now 24 days old. And I can say with a degree of certainty that 40 of them are still alive out of the 75 that I added to the in the beginning. I feel really good about that. So, yeah. All right, well, let's add a bubble mailer right there to the center. And then we'll put their blanket back on top. And hopefully everyone will go back to feeling safe and comfortable. Thank you so much for your time and your interest. Be safe. Be well. Bye for now.